Sunday Krishna book reading. We'd like to thank Srila Prabhupada for allowing us to come and read his Krishna book to him every Sunday. Before we begin chapter 5, we'd like to offer our humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Nama Om Vishnumadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavane Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarane. So you can get your Krishna books. I think you have one. Open up to chapter 5, page 58. And we're starting with the meeting of Nanda and Vasudeva. Although Krishna was the real son of Vasudeva and Devaki, because of Kamsa's atrocious activities, Vasudeva could not enjoy the birth ceremony of his son. But Nanda Maharaj, the foster father, celebrated the birth ceremony of Krishna very joyfully. The next day it was declared that a male child had been born to Yashoda. According to Vedic custom, Nanda Maharaj called for a learned astrologer and Brahmana to perform the birth ceremony. After the birth of a child, the astrologer calculates the moment of the birth and makes a horoscope of the child's future life. Before the birth ceremony, the family members take bath, cleanse themselves, and decorate themselves with ornaments and nice garments. Then they come before the child and the astrologer to hear of the future life of the child. Nanda Maharaj and other members of the family dressed and sat down in front of the birthplace. All the brahmanas who were assembled there on this occasion chanted auspicious mantras according to the rituals, while the astrologers performed the birth ceremony. All the demigods are also worshipped on this occasion, as well as the forefathers of the family. Nanda Maharaj distributes to the brahmanas 200,000 cows, which were well decorated with cloth and ornaments. He gave the brahmanas not only cows in charity, but also hills of grain decorated with ornaments and golden bordered cloth.
In the material world, we possess riches and wealth in many ways, but sometimes not in very honest and pious ways, because that is the nature of accumulating wealth. According to Vedic injunction, therefore, one should purify such wealth by giving cows and gold in charity to the brahmanas. A newborn child is also purified by gifts of grains in charity to the brahmanas. In this material world, it is to be understood that we are always living in a contaminated state. We therefore have to purify the duration of our lives, our possession of wealth, and ourselves. We can purify our duration of life by taking daily bath and cleansing the body inside and outside, and accepting the 10 kinds of purificatory process. By austerities, by worship of the Lord, and by distribution of charity, we can purify the possession of wealth. We can purify ourselves by studying the Vedas in order to understand the absolute truth and achieve self-realization. It is therefore stated in the Vedic literature that by birth everyone is born a Shudra, that by accepting the purificatory process one becomes twice born, that by studying the Vedas one becomes a Vipra, which is the preliminary qualification for becoming a Brahmana, and that when one perfectly understands the absolute truth, he becomes a Brahmana, and when the Brahmana reaches further perfection, he becomes a Vaishnava or a devotee.
In Krishna's birth ceremony, all the assembled brahmanas Again, to chant different kinds of Vedic mantras to invoke all good fortune for the child. There are different kinds of chanting known as Sutta, Magadha, Vandija, and Virudavali. Along with this chanting of mantras and songs, bulges and cattle drums are sounded outside the house. On this occasion, the joyous vibrations could be heard in all the pasturing grounds and all the houses. Within and outside of the houses, there are varieties of artistic paintings done with rice pulp and scented water was sprinkled everywhere, even on the roads and streets. Ceilings and roofs were decorated with different kinds of flags, festoons, and green leaves. The gates were made of green leaves and flowers. All the cows, bulls, and calves were smeared with a mixture of oil and turmeric and painted with minerals like red oxide, yellow clay, and magnesium. They wore garlands of peacock feathers and were covered with nice colored clothes and gold necklaces.
When all the ecstatic cowherd men heard the Nand Maharaj, the father of Krishna, was celebrating the birth ceremony of his son, they became spontaneously joyful. They dressed themselves with very costly garments and ornamented their bodies with different kinds of earrings and necklaces, and wore great turbans on their heads. After dressing themselves in this gorgeous way, they took various kinds of presentations and thus approached the house of Nand Maharaj. As soon as they heard that Mother Yashoda had given birth to a child, all the cowherd women became overwhelmed with joy, and they also dressed themselves with various kinds of costly garments and ornaments and smeared scented cosmetics on their bodies. As the dust on the lotus flower exhibits the exquisite beauty of a flower, all the gopis, cowherd women, applied the dust of kumkum on their lotus-like faces. These beautiful gopis took their different presentations and very soon reached the house of Maharaj Nanda. Overburdened with their heavy hips and swollen breast, the gopis could not proceed very quickly towards the house of Nanda Maharaj. But out of ecstatic love for Krishna, they proceeded as quickly as possible. Their ears were decorated with pearl rings, their necks were decorated with jeweled lockets, their lips and eyes were decorated with different kinds of lipstick and ointment, and their hands were decorated with nice golden bangles. As they were very hastily passing over the stone road, the flower garlands which were decorated their bodies fell to the ground, and it appeared that a shower of flowers was falling from the sky. From the movement of the different kinds of ornaments on their bodies, they were looking still more beautiful. In this way, they all reached the house of Nanda Yashoda and blessed the child. "Dear child, you live long just to protect us." While they were blessing child Krishna in this way, they offered a mixture of turmeric powder, oil, yogurt, milk, and water. They sprinkled this mixture not only on the body of child Krishna but on all other persons who were present there. Also, on that auspicious occasion, there were different bands of expert musicians playing.
When the cowherd men saw the pastimes of the cowherd women, they became very joyful, and in response they also began to throw yogurt, milk, clarified butter, and water upon the bodies of the gopis. Then both parties began to throw butter on each other's bodies. Nanda Maharaj was also very happy to see the pastimes of the cowherd men and women, and he became very liberal in giving charity to the different singers who were assembled there. Some singers were reciting great verses from the Upanishads and Puranas. Some were glorifying the family ancestors, and some were singing very sweet songs. There were also many learned brahmanas present, and Nanda Maharaj, being very satisfied on this occasion, gave them different kinds of garments, ornaments, and cows in charity.
It is very important to note in this connection how wealthy the inhabitants of Vrindavana were simply by raising cows. All the cowherd men belonged to the Vaishya community, and their business was to protect the cows and cultivate crops. By their dress and ornaments and by their behavior, it appears that although they were in a small village, they still were rich in material possessions. They possessed such an abundance of various kinds of milk products that they were throwing butter lavishly on each other's bodies without restriction. Their wealth was in milk, yogurt, and clarified butter, and many of other milk products. And by trading their agricultural products, they were rich in various kinds of jewelry, ornament, and costly garments. Not only did they possess all these things, but they could give them away in charity lavishly, as did Nanda Maharaj.
Thus Nand Maharaj, foster father of Lord Krishna, began to satisfy the desires of all the men assembled there. He respectfully received them and gave them in charity whatever they desired. The learned Brahmas who had no other source of income were completely dependent on the Vaisya community for their maintenance, and they received gifts on such festive occasions as birthdays and marriages. While Nanda Maharaj was worshipping Lord Vishnu on the occasion and was trying to satisfy all the people there, his only desire was that the newborn child Krishna be happy. Nand Maharaj had no knowledge that this child was the origin of Vishnu. He was praying to Lord Vishnu to protect him.
Rohini Devi, the mother of Balram, was the most fortunate wife of Vasudeva. She was away from her husband, yet just to congratulate Maharaj Nanda on the occasion of the birth ceremony of his son, Krishna, she dressed herself very nicely, wearing a garland, a necklace, and a bodily ornaments. She appeared on the scene and moved hither and thither according to the Vedic system. A woman whose husband is not at home does not dress herself very nicely, but although Rohini's husband was away, she still dressed herself very nicely on this occasion. From the opulence of the birth ceremony of Krishna, it is very clear that at that time Vrindavan was rich in every respect, because Lord Krishna took birth in the house of King Nanda and Mother Yashoda. The goddess of fortune was obliged to manifest her opulences in Vrindavan. It appeared that Vrindavan had already become a site for the pastime of the goddess of fortune.
After the birth ceremony, Nanda Maharaj decided to go to Mathura to pay the annual tax to the government of Kamsa. Before leaving, he called for the able cowherd men of the village and asked them to take care of Vrindavan in his absence. When Nanda Maharaj arrived in Mathura, Vasudeva got the news and was very eager to congratulate his friend. He immediately went to the place where Nanda Maharaj was staying. When Nanda saw Vasudeva, he felt that he had regained his life. Nanda, overwhelmed with joy, immediately stood up and embraced Vasudeva. Vasudeva was received very warmly and offered a nice place to sit. Anxious about the two sons who had been put under the protection of Nanda without Nanda's knowledge, Vasudeva inquired about them with great anxiety. Both Balaram and Krishna were the sons of Vasudeva. Balaram was transferred to the womb of Rohini, Vasudeva's own wife, but Rohini was kept under the protection of Nanda Maharaj. Krishna was personally delivered to Yashoda and exchanged for their daughter. Nanda Maharaj knew that Balaram was the son of Vasudeva, but he did not know that Krishna was also Vasudeva's son. Vasudeva, of course, was aware of this fact and inquired very eagerly about both Krishna and Balaram.
Vasudeva then addressed Nanda, "My dear brother, you were old and very anxious to beget a son, and yet you had none. Now by the grace of the Lord, you are fortunate to have a very nice son. I think that this incident is very auspicious for you. Dear friend, I was imprisoned by Kansa and now I am released. Therefore, this is another birth for me. I had no hope of seeing you again, but by God's grace I can see you." In this way, Vasudeva indirectly expresses anxiety about Krishna. Krishna was sent incognito to the bed of Mother Yashoda, and after Nanda was pompously celebrated Krishna's birth ceremony, he went to Mathura. So Vasudeva was very much pleased and said, "This is a new birth for me." He never expected that Krishna would live because all his other sons had been killed by Kansa. Vasudeva continued, "My dear friend, it is very difficult for us to live together. Although we have our family and relatives, sons and daughters, by nature's way, we are generally separated from one another. The reason for this is that every living entity appears on this earth under different pressure of activities, fruitive activities. Although they assemble together, there is no certainty of their remaining together for a long time. According to one's fruitive activities, one has to act differently and thereby be separated. For example, many plants and creepers are floating on the waves of the ocean. Sometimes they come together and sometimes they separate forever. One plant goes one way and another plant goes another. Similarly, our family assembly may be very nice while we are living together, but after some time, in the course of the waves of time, we are separated."
The purport of this expression by Vasudeva is this. Although he had 8 sons born in the womb of Devaki, unfortunately they were all gone. He could not even keep his one son, Krishna, with him. Vasudeva was feeling his separation, but he could not express the real fact. "Please tell me about the welfare of Vrindavan," he said. "You have many animals. Are they happy? Are they getting sufficient grass and water? Please also let me know whether the place where you are now living is undisturbed and peaceful." This inquiry was made by Vasudeva because he was very anxious about Krishna's safety. He knew that Kamsa and his followers were trying to kill Krishna by sending various kinds of demons. They had already resolved that all children born within 10 days of the birthday of Krishna should be killed. Because Vasudeva was so anxious about Krishna, he inquired about the safety of his residence. He also inquired about Balaram and his mother, Rohini, who were entrusted to the care of Nanda Maharaj. Vasudeva also reminded Nanda Maharaj that Balaram did not know his real father. He knows you as his father, and now you have another child, Krishna, and I think you are taking very nice care of both of them. It is also significant that Vasudeva inquired about the welfare of Nanda Maharaj's animals. The animals, and especially the cows, were protected exactly in the manner of one's own children. Vasudeva was a Kshatriya, and Nanda Maharaj was a Vaishya. It is the duty of the Kshatriyas to give protection to the citizens, and it is the duty of the Vaishyas to give protection to the cows. The cows are as important as the citizens, just as the human citizens should be given all kinds of protection, so the cows also should be given full protection.
Vasudev continued to say that the maintenance of religious principles, economic development, and the satisfactory execution of meeting the demands of the senses depend on cooperations among relatives, nations, and all humanities. Therefore, it is everyone's duty to see that these fellow citizens and the cows are not put into difficulty. One should see to the peace and comfort of his fellow men and the animals. The development of religious principles, economic development, and sense gratification can then be achieved without difficulty. Vasudev expressed his sorrow due to not being able to give protection to his own sons born of Devaki. He was thinking that religious principles, economic development, and the satisfaction of his senses were therefore all lost. Upon hearing this, Nand Maharaj replied, "My dear Vasudev, I know that you are very much aggrieved because the cruel king Kansa has killed all your sons born of Devaki. Although the last child was a daughter, Kansa could not kill her and she has entered into the celestial planets. My dear friend, do not be aggrieved. We are all being controlled by our past unseen activities. Everyone is subjected to his past deeds, and one who is unversed with the philosophy of Kansa and its reactions is a man in knowledge. Such a person will not be aggrieved at any incident, happy or miserable."
Vasudev then replied, "My dear Nanda, if you have already paid the government taxes, then return soon to your place, because I think that there may be some disturbances in Gokula." After the friendly conversations between Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev, Vasudev returned to his home. Nand Maharaj and the other cowherd men who had come to Mathura to pay their taxes also returned. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 15th chapter of Krishna, the meeting of Nanda and Vasudev. Chapter 6, Putana killed. While Nand Maharaj was returning home, he considered Vasudeva's warning that there might be some disturbances in Gokula. Certainly, the advice was friendly and not false, so Nanda thought there is some truth in it. Therefore, out of fear, he began to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is quite natural for a devotee in danger to think of Krishna, because he has no other shelter. When a child is in danger, he takes shelter of his mother or father. Similarly, a devotee is always under the shelter of Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when he specifically sees some danger, he remembers the Lord very rapidly.
So just as a reminder, we're on chapter 6 and entitled Putana Killed, and we're on the second paragraph now. After consulting with his demoniac ministers, Kamsa instructed the witch named Putana, who knew the black art of killing small children by ghastly sinful methods, to kill all kinds of children in the cities, villages, and pasturing grounds. Such witches can play their black art only where there is no chanting or hearing of the holy names of Krishna. It is said that wherever the chanting of the holy names of Krishna is done, even negligently, all bad elements, witches, ghosts, and dangerous calamities immediately disappear. And this is certainly true of the place where the chanting of the holy name of Krishna is done seriously, especially in Vrindavan, when the Supreme Lord was personally present. Therefore, the doubts of Nanda Maharaj were certainly based on affection for Krishna. Actually, there was no danger from the activities of Putana, despite her powers. Such witches are called Khichari, which means they can fly in the sky. This black art of witchcraft is still practiced by some women in the remote northwestern side of India. They can transfer themselves from one place to another on the branch of an uprooted tree. Putana knew this witchcraft, and therefore she is described in the Bhagavatam as Khichari.
Putana entered the county of Gokula, the residential quarter of Nanda Maharaj, without permission. Dressing herself just like a beautiful woman, she entered the house of Mother Yashoda. She appeared very beautiful, with raised hips, nicely swollen breasts, earrings, and flowers in her hair. She looked especially beautiful on account of her thin waist. She was glancing at everyone with very attractive looks and smiling face, and all the residents of Vrindavan were captivated. The innocent coward woman thought that she was the goddess of fortune, appearing in Vrindavan with a lotus flower in her hand. It seemed to them that she had personally come to see Krishna, who is her husband. Because of her exquisite beauty, no one checked her movement, and therefore she freely entered the house of Nanda Maharaj. Putana, the killer of many children, found baby Krishna lying on a small bed, and she could at once perceive that the baby was hiding his unparalleled potencies, which resembled fire covered by ashes. Putana thought, this child is so powerful that he can destroy the whole universe immediately.
Putana's understanding is very significant. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is situated in everyone's heart. It is stated in the Bhagavad-Gita that he gives one necessary intelligence, and he also causes one to forget. Putana was immediately aware that the child whom she was observing in the house of Nanda Maharaj was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. He was lying there as a small baby, but that does not mean he was less powerful. The materialistic theory that God worship is anthropomorphic is not correct. No living being can become God by undergoing meditation or austerities. God is always God. Krishna as a baby is as complete as he is as a full-fledged youth. The Mayavadi theory holds that the living entity was formerly God but has now become overwhelmed by the influence of Maya. Therefore, the Mayavadis say that presently he is not God, but when the influence of Maya is taken away, he will again become God. This theory cannot be applied to the minute living entities. The living entities are minute parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are minute particles or sparks of the original fire. So these sparks can be covered by the influence of Maya, but the original fire, Krishna, cannot. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even from the beginning of his appearance in the house of Vasudeva and Devaki.
Krishna showered the nature of a small baby and closed his eyes as if to avoid the face of Putana. This closing of the eyes is interpreted and studied in different ways by the devotees. Some say that Krishna closed his eyes because he did not like to see the face of Putana, who had killed so many children and who had now come to kill him. Others say that Putana hesitated to take the baby on her lap because something extraordinary was being dictated to her from within, and that is in order to give her assurance, Krishna closed his eyes so she would not be frightened. And yet others interpret in this way, Krishna appeared to order to kill the demons and give protection to the devotees, as stated in the Bhagavad-Gita, Paritranam Sadhunam Vinashaya Chadushkara. The first demon to be killed was a woman. According to Vedic rules, the killing of a woman, a Brahman, cows, or a child is strictly forbidden. Krishna was obliged to kill the demon Putana, and because the killing of a woman is forbidden according to Vedic Shastra, he could not help but because his eyes. Another interpretation is that Krishna closed his eyes because he simply took Putana to be his nurse. Putana came to Krishna just to offer her breast for a lord to suck. Krishna is so merciful that even though he knew Putana was there to kill him, he took her as his nurse or a mother.
There are 7 kinds of mothers according to Vedic injunctions. The real mother, the wife of a teacher or a spiritual master, the wife of a king, the wife of a brahmana, the cow, the nurse, and the mother earth. Because Putana came to take Krishna on her lap and offer her breast milk to be sucked by him, she was accepted by Krishna as one of his mothers. That is considered to be another reason he closed his eyes. He had to kill a nurse or mother, but his killing of his mother or nurse was no different from his love for his real mother or his real foster mother Yashoda. We further understand from Vedic information that Putana was also treated as a mother and given the same facility as Yashoda. As Yashoda was given liberation from the material world, Putana was also given liberation. When the baby Krishna closed his eyes, Putana took him on her lap. She did not know that she was holding death personified. If a person mistakes a snake for a rope, he dies. Similarly, Putana had killed so many babies before meeting Krishna, and she mistook him to be like them. But now she was accepting the snake that would kill her immediately.
When Putana was taking baby Krishna on her lap, both Yashoda and Rohini were present. But because she was so beautifully dressed and showed motherly affection toward Krishna, they did not forbid her. They could not understand that she was a sword within a decorated case. Putana had smeared a very powerful poison on her breasts, and immediately after taking the baby on her lap, she pushed her breastly nipple within his mouth. She was hoping that as soon as he would suck her breast, he would die. But baby Krishna very quickly took the nipple in anger. He sucked the milk poison along with the life air of the demon. In other words, Krishna simultaneously sucked the milk from her breast and killed her by sucking out her life. Krishna is so merciful that because the demon Putana came to offer her breast milk to him, he fulfilled her desire and accepted her activity as motherly. But to stop her from further nefarious activities, he immediately killed her. And because the demon was killed by Krishna, she got liberation. As Krishna pressed her breast extremely hard and sucked out her very life breath, Putana fell down on the ground, spread her arms and legs, and began to cry, "Oh child, leave me, leave me." She was crying loudly and perspiring, and her whole body became wet.
As she died screaming, there was tremendous vibrations on the earth and in the sky, on the upper and lower planets, and in all directions. And people thought that thunderbolts were falling. Thus the nightmare of Putta's wish was over, and she assumed her real feature as a great demon. She opened her fierce mouth and spread her arms and legs all over. She felt exactly as Vritasur did when struck by thunderbolt of Indra. The long hair on her head was scattered all over her body. Her fallen body extended up to 12 miles and smashed all the trees to pieces, and everyone was struck with wonder upon seeing this gigantic body. Her teeth appeared just like the plows, and her nostrils appeared just like the mountain caves. Her breasts appeared like small hills, and her hair was a vast reddish bush. Her eye sockets appeared like blind wells, and her two thighs appeared like two banks of river. Her two hands appeared like two strongly constructed bridges, and her abdomen seemed like a dried up lake. All the coward men and women became struck with awe and wonder upon seeing this, and the tumultuous sound of her falling shocked their brains and ears and made their hearts beat strongly.
When the gopis saw little Krishna fearlessly playing on Putana's lap, they very quickly came and picked him up. Mother Yashoda, Rohini, and other elder gopis immediately performed the auspicious rituals by taking the tail of a cow and circumambulating his body. The child was completely washed with the urine of a cow, and the dust created the hooves of the cows was thrown all over his body. This was all just to save little Krishna from future inauspicious accidents. This incident gives us a clear indication of how important the cow is to the family, society, and to living beings in general. The transcendental body of Krishna did not require any protection, but to instruct us on the importance of the cow, the Lord was smeared over with cow dung, washed with the urine of a cow, and sprinkled with the dust upraised by the walking of the cows.
After this purificatory process, the gopis, headed by Mother Yashoda and Rohini, chanted the names of Vishnu to give Krishna's body full protection from all evil influences. They washed their hands and feet and sipped water 3 times, as is the custom before chanting mantra. They chanted as follows: My dear Krishna, may the Lord who is known as Aja protect your legs. May Lord Maniman protect your knees. May Lord Yajna protect your thighs. May Lord Achyut protect your upper waist. May Lord Hagrive protect your abdomen. May Lord Keswa protect your heart. May Lord Isa protect your chest. May Lord Surya protect your neck. May Lord Vishnu protect your arms. May Lord Urukrama protect your face. May Lord Iswara protect your head. May Lord Chakradhara protect your front. May Lord Gadadhar protect your back. May Lord Madhusudan, who carries a bow in his hand, protect your right side. May Lord Ajana protect your left side. May Lord Urugrava with his conch shell protect you on all sides. May the personality of Godhead Upendra protect you from above. May Lord Taskriya protect you on the ground. May Lord Haladhar protect you from all sides. May the personality of Godhead known as Shikesh protect all your senses. May Lord Narayana protect your life heirs. May the Lord of Svetadvita Narayana protect the core of your heart. May Lord Yogeshwar protect your mind. May Lord Prasnigradha protect your intelligence. And may the Supreme Personality of Godhead protect your soul. While you are playing, may Lord Govind protect you from all sides, and when you are sleeping, may Lord Madhava protect you from all danger. When you are walking, may the Lord of Vaikunt protect you from falling down. When you are sitting, may Lord Narayana give you all the protection, and while you are eating, may the Lord of all sacrifices give you all the protection.
Thus, Mother Yashoda chanted different names of Vishnu to protect child Krishna's different bodily parts. Mother Yashoda was firmly convinced that she should protect her child from different kinds of evil spirits and ghosts, namely Dakinis, Yatudhanis, Kashmandas, Rakshasas, Yakshas, Vinayakas, Kotaras, Revatis, Jeshthas, Putanas, Matrakas, Unmadas, and similar other evil spirits who cause person to forget their own existence and give trouble to the life heirs and the senses. Sometimes they appear in dream and cause much perturbation. Sometimes they appear as old women and suck the blood of small children. But no such ghosts and evil spirits can remain where there is chanting of the holy names of God. Mother Yashoda was firmly convinced of the Vedic injunctions about the importance of the cows and the holy name of Vishnu. Therefore, she took all shelter in the cows and the name of Vishnu. Just to protect her child Krishna, she recited all the holy names of Vishnu so that he might save the child. Vedic culture has taken advantage of keeping cows and chanting the holy name of Vishnu since the beginning of history, and persons who are still following the Vedic ways, especially the householders, keep at least 12 cows and worship the deity of Lord Vishnu, who is installed in their house. Persons who are advancing in Krishna consciousness should take instructions from this pastime and also be very much interested in cows and the holy name of Vishnu.
The elder gopis of Vrindavan were so absorbed in affection for Krishna that they wanted to save him, although there was no need to, for he had already protected himself. They could not understand that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead playing as a child. After performing the formalities to protect the child, Mother Yashoda took Krishna and let him suck her breast. When the child was protected by Vishnu mantra, Mother Yashoda felt that he was safe. In the meantime, all the cowherd men who had gone to Mathura to pay the tax, returned home and were struck with wonder at seeing the gigantic dead body of Putana. 12 miles, that's from here to Mathura.
Nanda Maharaj recalled the prophecy of Vasudeva and considered him a great sage and mystic yogi. Otherwise, how could he have foretold an incident that happened during his absence from Vrindavan? After this, all the residents of Raja cut the gigantic body of Putana into pieces and piled it up with wood for burning. When all the limbs of Putana's body were burning, the smoke emanating from the fire created a good aroma of aguru. This aroma was due to her being killed by Krishna. This means that the demon Putana was washed of all her sinful activities and attained a celestial body. Here is an example of how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is all good. Putana came to kill Krishna, but because he sucked her milk, she was immediately purified, and her dead body attained a transcendental quality. Her only business was to kill small children. She was only fond of blood. But in spite of being envious of Krishna, she attained salvation because she gave her milk to him to drink. So what can be said of those who are affectionate to Krishna in the relationship of mother, who with great love and affection always serve him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the super soul of every living entity?
It is concluded, therefore, that even a little energy expended in the service of the Lord gives one immense transcendental profit. This is explained in the Bhagavad-Gita. Svalpamapasya dharmasya triyate mahato bhayat. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is so sublime that even a little service rendered to Krishna, knowingly or unknowingly, gives one the greatest transcendental benefit. The system of worshipping Krishna by offering flowers from a tree is also beneficial for the living entity who is confined to the bodily existence of that tree. When flowers and fruits are offered to Krishna, the tree that bore them also receives much benefit indirectly. The achala process or worshipping procedure is therefore beneficial for everyone. Krishna is worshipable by great demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva, and Putana was so fortunate that the same Krishna played in her lap as a little child. The lotus feet of Krishna, which are worshipped by great sages and devotees, were placed on the body of Putana. People worship Krishna and offer him food with great reverence and devotion, but automatically he sucked the milk from the body of Putana. Devotees therefore pray that if simply by offering something as an enemy Putana got so much benefit, then who can measure the benefit of worshipping Krishna in love and affection? Therefore, only Krishna should be worshipped, for so much benefit awaits the worshipper.
Although Putna was an evil spirit, she gained elevation just like the mother of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clear that the cows and the elder gopis who offered milk to Krishna were also elevated to the transcendental position. Krishna can offer anyone anything from liberation to anything materially conceivable. Therefore, there can be any doubt of the salvation of Putna, whose bodily milk was sucked by Krishna for such a long time. And how can there be any doubt about the salvation of the gopis who were so fond of Krishna? Undoubtedly, all the gopis, cowheads, boys, cows, and everyone else who served Krishna in Vrindavan with love and affection were liberated from the miserable condition of material existence. When all the inhabitants of Vrindavan smelled a good aroma from the smoke of the burning putana, they inquired from each other, "Where is this good fragrance coming from?" And while conversing, they came to understand that it was the fumes of the burning putana. They were very fond of Krishna, and as soon as they heard that the demon Putana had been killed by Krishna, they offered blessings to the little child out of affection. After the burning of Putana, Nand Maharaj came home and immediately took up the child on his lap and began to smell his head. In this way, he was quite satisfied that his little child was saved from this great calamity. Srila Sukdev Goswami has given a blessing to all the persons who hear the narration of the killing of Putana by Krishna. They will surely attain the favor of Govinda. Thus ends the Bhakti-Vedanta purport of 6th chapter of Krishna Putana killed.
Chapter 7. The Salvation of Trinavarta. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is always full with 6 opulences, namely complete wealth, complete strength, complete fame, complete knowledge, complete beauty, and complete renunciation. The Lord appears in different complete eternal forms of incarnations. The conditioned soul has immense opportunity to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord in these different incarnations. In the Bhagavad-Gita, it is said, Janma karma cha me divyam. The pastimes and the activities of the Lord are not material. They are beyond the material conception, and the conditioned soul can benefit by hearing such uncommon activities. Hearing is an opportunity to associate with the Lord. To hear His activities is to evolve one's transcendental nature simply by hearing. The conditioned soul has a natural aptitude to hear something about other conditioned souls in the form of fiction, drama, or novel. That inclination to hear something about others may be utilized in hearing the pastimes of the Lord. Then one can immediately evolve his transcendental nature. Krishna's pastimes are not only beautiful, they are also very pleasing to the mind.
If someone takes advantage of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, the material contamination of dust accumulated in the heart due to long association with material nature can be immediately cleansed. Lord Chaitanya also instructed that simply by hearing the transcendental name of Lord Krishna, one can cleanse the heart of all material contamination. There are different processes for self-realization, but this process of devotional service, of which hearing is the most important function, when adopted by any conditioned soul, will automatically cleanse him of the material contamination and enable him to realize his real conditional position. Conditional life is due to this contamination only. And as soon as it is cleared off, then naturally the dormant function of the living entity rendering service to the Lord awakens. By developing his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, one becomes eligible to create friendship with the devotees. Maharaj Parikshit recommended from practical experience that everyone try to hear about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This Krishna treatise is meant for that purpose, and the reader may take advantage of it to attain the ultimate goal of human life.
The Lord, out of His causeless mercy, descends to this material world and displays His activities just like an ordinary man. Unfortunately, the impersonalities or the atheistic class of men consider Krishna to be ordinary man like themselves, and so they deride Him. This is condemned in Bhagavad-Gita by the Lord Himself when He says, Avajananti Mam Muda. The Mudas or rascals take Krishna to be an ordinary man or a slightly more powerful man. Out of a great misfortune, they can't accept Him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes as unfortunate persons misrepresent themselves as incarnation of Krishna without referring to the unauthorized scripture. When Krishna grew up a little more, he began to turn himself backside up. He didn't merely lie down on his back. And another function was observed by Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Krishna's first birthday, they arranged for Krishna's birthday ceremony, which is still observed by all followers of Vedic principles. Krishna's birthday ceremony is observed in India by all Hindus, irrespective of different sectarian views. Okay. All the covered men and women were invited to participate in the jubilant celebration. A nice band played, and the assembled people enjoyed it. All the learned Brahmanas were invited, and they chanted Vedic hymns for the good fortune of Krishna. During the chanting of the Vedic hymns and playing of the bands, Krishna was bathed by Mother Yashoda. This bathing ceremony is technically called Abhisheka, and even today this is observed in all the temples of Vrindavana on Janmashtami Day or the birthday anniversary of Lord Krishna.
On this occasion, Mother Yashoda arranged to distribute a large quantity of grain in first-class cows decorated with golden ornaments were made ready to be given in charity to the learned, respectable Brahmanas. Yashoda took a bath and dressed herself nicely, and taking child Krishna, duly dressed and bathed, on her lap, she sat down to hear the Vedic hymns chanted by the Brahmanas. While Mother Yashoda was listening to the chanting of the Vedic hymns, the child appeared to be falling asleep, and therefore she very silently laid him down on the bed. Being engaged in receiving all the friends, relatives, and residents of Vrindavan on that holy occasion, she forgot to feed the child milk. He was crying, being hungry, but Mother Yashoda could not hear him cry because of the various noises. The child, however, became angry because he was hungry and his mother was not paying attention to him. So he lifted his legs and began to kick his lotus feet just like an ordinary child. Baby Krishna had been placed underneath a hand-driven cart, and while he was kicking his legs, he accidentally touched the wheel of the cart and it collapsed. Various kinds of utensils and dishes made of brass and other metals had been piled up in the hand cart, and they all fell down with a great noise. The wheel of the cart separated from the axle, and the spokes of the wheel were all broken and scattered hither and thither. Mother Yashoda and all the gopis, as well as Maharaj Nanda and the coward men, were astonished as to how the cart could have collapsed by itself. All the men and women who were assembled for the holy function crowded around and began to suggest how the cart might have been collapsed. No one could ascertain the cause, but some small children who were entrusted to play with baby Krishna informed the crowd that it was due to Krishna's striking his feet against the wheel. They assured the crowd that they had seen how it happened with their own eyes, and they strongly asserted the point. Some were listening to the statements of the small children, but others said, "How can you believe the statements of these children?" The coward men and women could not understand that the all-powerful personality of Godhead was lying there as a baby, and that he could do anything. Both the possible and impossible were in his power.
So that concludes our hour of reading the Srila Prabhupada every Sunday here in Vrindavan in Prabhupada's Sacred Darshan Room. So next week we'll continue with the salvation of Trinavarta. So let us all offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarane. And to each other, Vanchakalpatrubhyas Cha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Krishna Book, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda, Ki Jai.